This is an Audio Wool original.
It is Frightday. I'm your host, Byron, and we're broadcasting live from our compound in the woods of Montana tonight. I guess actually last week, we learned a bit about Black Robert and his tragic fall into almost power, as well as the life of his supposed assassin, Double Sirhan. Now it's time to discuss how their paths
So confused.
ended up crossing on June 5th, 1968.
Can you tell me why he's Black Robert?
I will explain that just a second at the Ambassador Hotel.
That is some potential.
Threw you off a little
Yep,
bit. Yep.
a lot.
It's JFK Part 2 in Kelly's Cryptids and
It's
Kennedys.
not JFK.
It's RFK, not Junior even, Part 2 in Kelly's Cryptids and Kennedys.
Wow. Wow.
Kelly.
They are distinct entities as brothers, you know.
They called him Black Robert because of how sullen he was after the loss of his brother.
So weird. Why would you be so glum?
Honestly, I'm not really sure what the deal is
It's also
with that
kind
guy.
of weird to call him Black Robert, especially when like one of his major
Was race equality.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who called him that. I was looking for nicknames.
So
And
weird.
that happened to be one of the ones that popped up.
TK Bobby.
TK Bobby?
Yeah, that's
What's that
I don't
mean?
know. It's just what pops into my head.
What's the TK stand for?
I don't even know.
Oh, well, come on now.
I don't think that that's a real nickname.
Then why would...
It just popped into my head.
you can't just add two initials.
I mean, it rings all right. I felt like it like had a
Let's start
cadence
over.
to
Let's
it.
start the show over.
No, you just can't
No.
call him
Well,
Black Bobby.
I can. It's better than TK Robbie or whatever you said.
Black Mom. What's that song?
Okay.
Hey, man, dang, 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 come on, my name. That song. What is that song? I don't remember. Okay,
It's a live show.
I'm really excited.
Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
MST, live.frightday.com. I guess you can come hang out with us, chat with other folks like Jesse is in the chat.
Hey, Jesse.
David. We got Space Soul Boys here. Yeah, lots of folks.
Hi.
Hi. Everyone, sorry about that, about most of the stuff that's happened so far.
No, I'm not sorry. I think that we're off on a great start.
We also
Byron.
have a phone number.
Oh, God. If you're going to play
Call
something from
1-833-374-4489 now to share your paranormal encounters and real-life nightmares, or to talk horror with the hosts.
That's 1-833-FRIGHT9. Get it in your phone. Add us as a contact and call us whenever.
Yeah, we're not listening to
Like this
anybody.
person
No,
here.
no. If it's him, I don't want to listen to it.
Is it? No, it's not the Piano Man.
I don't want to hear anything from the Piano Man
It's
right
not
now.
the Piano Man. I
He
don't
freaks me out. I have nightmares. I've had multiple nightmares about the Piano Man.
about the Piano
Yeah.
Man. I don't see what's. Well, it's not the Piano Man.
Okay.
This is from California.
Oh, I like this better
I've
already.
had quite a bit of experiences in my life, but this one has always stood out. When I was in high school, probably a sophomore, I had gotten home late after sports, probably around 6 p.m., and just decided to go to sleep. But I've never been able to just go to sleep really easily, so I put on some headphones and was listening to music and just wanted to drift to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
What music?
As I was doing that,
God damn it.
I was getting to a state where you sort of in between
Drifting off.
this like the dream realm and
I already
like,
tell you what Byron's going to
still
say
being
happened.
awake, so still aware. I could still hear things, and the entire time the song for whatever reason was just playing on loop, and it was just the instrumental. Eventually I fell asleep, and in my dream I was in this room just staring at somebody from up above, laying down. And it didn't take long for me to realize that I was actually in my room in the back top corner staring at myself at the bed.
Astral projection.
Everything looked just as it did.
Watch Doctor Sleep.
I'm going to sleep, or how my room just was naturally when I got home. And I eventually sort of just got up, kind of got out of my dream, and at this point I was on my side, so I just looked towards the foot of my bed, and all I could see was this white figure in the corner of my room, like a shadowy figure, seemed like a spirit. And I immediately just laid back on my side and kind of fell asleep for a second, and then it hit me. I quickly looked back and realized that what I saw wasn't there anymore.
Whoa.
I don't know what you would explain it, but immediately all I started thinking was white witch, white witch.
Okay, so it could be White Witch. I don't know that much about White Witches, but what I'm going to say...
No, you can't just say, it could be White Witch.
It could be. Well, I don't want to just tell him that what he thinks it is not what it could be. I want to tell him what I think it is.
Well, tell me what the White Witch is first.
Honestly, all of the UFOs that are happening, which at some point we're going to have to talk about the barrage of drones that flanked Langley last year that have become a really big deal.
Over the course of a month, yeah.
Yeah, and also flew over Nevada, by the way. Had long discussion with Sam about this.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, both sides. Okay, so... I think that's even more evidence that we've got something dimensional going on. And I would say that this sounds like a dimensional thing with you. Like there were two yous that were like crossing.
Okay. So, I mean, out of body, we did a whole out of body experience series.
Near death.
Near death. But this is different than that, of course.
Astral projection, it sounds more like astral projection, though most of the time you hear about people doing that intentionally. This doesn't sound like it was, I'm trying to do this. But maybe it could be a time thing.
What do you mean by time thing?
Like a future him. So there's this great episode of Tales from the Dark Side called Sorry, Right Number. It's about this lady and she's like really all busy. She's got kids and all of a sudden like all this stuff's going on. She picks up her house phone when it rings and there's this woman on the other end that's just sobbing and she like can't hear it. And then she hangs up and a few minutes later like the police come to the door or something and she finds out her husband died. And then like fast forward like 10 years and she's like, it's the anniversary of her husband's death and she's really sad and she's like despondent for some reason. She like picks up the phone and for some reason calls her old phone number.
Okay.
And all of a sudden she realizes that she is the crying lady on the other end of the phone that she picked up 10 years ago when like the day that her husband died. So she was calling from the future.
From the future.
So I'm just saying that perhaps this was like something akin to that.
Huh. I think it was a dream.
I mean, that's fine. I knew you were going to say it was.
Yeah, of course.
That's all right. Fine.
That's the kind of stuff I love to hear on the phone line there.
I do love that. I am not going to lie. The Piano Man, I don't know how that doesn't scare you more than it does.
It's funny because considering I really truly don't know who the Piano Man is.
Like you actually don't. You aren't just fucking with me.
No idea. Not fucking with you at all. It's coming from an encrypted email address. I don't know. I am looking forward to the next edition of the Piano Man. If the Piano Man is out there listening from some sort of different dimension or after death sort of, I don't know. How did he get through here? I don't even know.
I have no idea. Is it Billy Joel?
Billy Joel's alive. Billy Joel's still alive.
But so it could be him is what you're saying.
Could be, honestly. But yeah, Piano Man's great. Thank you so much for calling that caller.
I do appreciate that.
Caller from Florida, once again, didn't leave their name. That is the third caller in a row to not leave their first name. I guess maybe I'll add that as an instruction. On the actual voicemail.
You should.
It'd be great to know first names at least and see where people are. I mean, thanks for saying from California. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Great story.
Thank you.
Yes. Awesome.
So we've just got shots now?
Yeah, I got guns now, yeah. So,
what kind of a gun is that being fired?
I'm not really sure
Kind
exactly.
of a bullet?
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. We talked a lot about bullets last week when we took a research week while we played a little bit of the footage from inside the Dumas brothel, which I gotta say, consensus is that you were too scared during the ghost hunt and that it was borderline unethical of me to not only continue pushing you through that experience.
Okay, so this is how traumatized I am.
Air it.
This is how traumatized I am. When you said the consensus is that you were too scared, I literally took that to mean, Kelly, your level of fear was not okay, and you shouldn't have been afraid, and you're in trouble for being afraid. That's literally how I internalize that because I am so traumatized.
Well, that's how I feel.
I know it's how you feel.
But that's not how our audience feels. Our audience seems to be very sympathetic and concerned, actually.
I'm okay now. I've had to talk it through with like 4 or 5 different people.
Oh, no.
And tried to explain why it bothered me and terrified me as much as it did.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. A lot of people were kind of uncomfortable with how scared you were and how it was still happening. Like how, there was still footage airing. And again, the replay is not up yet, but...
My parents are looking forward to watching it.
yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm really excited. I had to get a little bit creative because there were some... Oh, God. And I don't believe in ghosts, but there are moments... during Addison's tour that I was editing where he's telling stories about specific ghosts.
Fuck.
And they just completely go, like, fade out. The whole scene where he's showing the the apparition on his phone to me is not there. There's, like, a lot of...
Okay, so Byron, at what point does Occam's razor kick over into... The simplest explanation is that there is something going on.
Most of the story where he's talking about being minorly possessed is not there. I'm trying to think. There's a couple other moments where I'm like, God damn it. Like, why?
Okay, hold on. You know what's interesting? Both of those were points that I was like at peak fear. I wonder if I'm like low-key poltergeisting shit.
Sure.
And like literally my stress brainwaves are breaking the equipment when my stress and fear gets too high of a point. What do you think? Maybe that's what made the growling noise?
Well, and there is a heavy exhale at the beginning of...
Fuck.
Yeah, there's a lot of like
Okay, so Byron, really, like you're
What?
still saying that you don't think it's anything. So you
No,
just
I
listed
don't.
tons of evidence. So what is it all?
Well, it's not evidence. It's probably just coincidence. And I like what Jesse said here in the chat. I felt bad about it, but also it's Compello-vision. I like Compello-vision.
I do like Compello-vision too.
You have a face that it was reminiscent of, moments from the Blair Witch Project, like sequences where
Great.
Heather's in the woods.
Where did Heather end up?
I think she's selling legal pot in Oregon.
Really
so
hope
she's
that
doing pretty
we should
well.
swing by and see her one of these times we're over there.
That would be actually kind of cool. I think we should
Find out where she works.
Well, we know what her farm is called. She owns her own. Yeah, of course.
What neck of the woods is it in over in
I'm
that
not
Oregon?
We don't need to do that right
Well, let's
now.
look into it.
Well,
Let's make a road
yes,
trip.
Of course we will. So, like I said, last week was research week. Kelly made me watch an RFK documentary from, I think, the 70s, which
Yes.
I do like that. It was
It
good.
was a very good documentary.
And while
you didn't watch the rest
well,
of it, did you?
Not yet. And I also paid very close attention to it, and also at the same time created a T-shirt for this series, which is available now for pre-order at shop.frightday.com. I wonder if I can pull up an image of it.
Really?
Yeah. What did you think of it? First of all,
The Second Gun?
yeah, that's the name of the movie.
Yeah, so I thought it was incredibly compelling and had a lot of really interesting evidence in it that if you didn't pay close enough attention, you're not allowed to question me about anything tonight.
I guess that makes sense.
Important.
It goes a little hard, so I do apologize for that.
Yeah, it does go really
a
hard,
T-shirt that is
actually.
the Assassination of RFK. And if you're just listening to this, there's a video element to this podcast. It's available at youtube.com/Frightday. So go subscribe and watch it there. But yeah, there's his wife at the funeral looking over his body and the crowd, that adored him.
You know what picture you didn't put on there that I sent you this evening?
Well, the shirt's been made for
I
over
know,
a
but I
week.
just...
So
It's a really very sad shirt. Pardon me, it wasn't a shirt. It's
Not
a very
yet.
sad picture of the pallbearers at RFK's.
yes.
And you know who the one in front is?
RFK Jr.?
A child
Yeah,
RFK Jr.
of course. Wow. I mean, that's heavy. Probably wouldn't use that. But yeah, with the Dumas brothel in our background, we have a little bit more time for rear view is what I was looking for. We have a little bit more time for fun. And we got sent this a long time ago. I'm glad to finally be able to
I
discuss
love
it.
mysteries. Are we going to do that tonight instead?
Killer Mystery, Everyone's a Suspect. It's from Killer Mystery Games. They sent us, it's the whole season It's kind of like, it's one of those subscription services where you solve a crime. This one's called Spaced Out. It seems like something you might enjoy.
Ooh.
I wonder if they have a description of Spaced
Oh my gosh, I really
Out.
want to do this.
Welcome and congratulations. You have made the awesome decision to immerse yourself in this exciting world, pardon me, of murder mystery. Each Killer Mystery season contains 5 episodes that play out like chapters in a book. So I think we're gonna tackle that soon, and we might do a full review of it. Either way, we thank the folks over at Killer Mystery for sending this over to us. Should be fun.
Really fun.
I haven't had fun in a while.
Does it have an like time approximation?
Like how long it would take?
Yeah.
I guess we could always start and stop. I don't know exactly how long it takes to solve. There's
I don't know,
multiple
it just seems like it'd be really, really fun.
Yeah. So thanks so much for that. But Kelly, you know what time it is.
I don't like gunshots.
What's that?
Byron, if you're there, come up.
I'm right here.
Fucking okay.
Wait, what? You don't like that either?
No, I really hate that.
All right. Well, it's time for us to return to some friends that you've made. And I do mean that, Kelly.
Yeah.
It's Kelly's Cryptids and Kennedy's.
No more shots. No more shots. No, I don't want any more shots.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the right button.
No, stop with the shots.
Kelly's Cryptids and Kennedy's.
Stop.
Who's gonna be the next president of the United States?
All right, guys. So last episode we talked a little bit about Sirhan and Bobby having some shared experiences, both losing a sibling tragically, both feeling at least somewhat responsible for that, both playing significant roles in close relationships with their mothers. Also, both of them being a little bit different from their siblings. I'm going to continue highlighting some of these common threads as we walk up to the point where their tragic lives crossed. But before we dive in, I do think something that comes up for me as I go through this and do research, I just have all of these questions. And I've been starting to track the questions so that, because if I follow every one of them, I can't ever actually get through a concept to research it. So I've been trying to keep a running tab of all of the biggest questions that I have in this research experience. So Byron, if we come across anything tonight that you're wondering about, instead of shouting it out and derailing me and possibly spoiling something that I'm going to talk about in a little while, I would deeply appreciate it if you would just jot down a little note.
Okay.
And add it to Kelly's question list. And I promise you that I will attempt to address all of them. Also, this will put you on the same level as all of the lovely people in our audience so that they can share their questions either by email or they can call and leave a voicemail with their questions about Mr. Kennedy.
Call 1-833-374-4489.
Please leave your name.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
First is fine.
So you told me basically just not to talk.
Well, I just want you to agree with me for once and not naysay everything, because you had the opportunity to listen to all the stuff last week so that when you questioned, it would be intelligent. But now if you question, it's just going to be annoying. Okay. So I just want you to agree and then write down any questions and I'll address them at a future point.
I will do my absolute best.
Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes some sense, I suppose.
All right. I believe where we left off, poor Sirhan had been injured by a tragic horse accident. Okay. And he ended up in a whole lot of pain. He was really not good with his riding skills, despite his desire and his appropriate stature for becoming a jockey. And he really kind of fell into helping out around these racetracks and betting a lot.
Oh.
Okay. Nothing that I could find showed that he was like underwater or had some horrible, debt with the mafia or something like that. Yeah, it seems like he kept it within reason. But when he got a check for the settlement for the injury, he got $1,700 and some odd dollars in the spring of 1968.
I wonder what that's worth now.
I mean, I feel it was a lot then, but it was especially a lot for him.
Okay.
Okay. and this was... It was one of the first times that he was...
It's only like $16,000 for permanent brain damage.
Well,
know.
so that is really... See, there we go. You're already doing it. You're already doing it.
What? Is that...
There's no indication that he had brain damage.
Okay.
He had pain injuries. There's no indication. I can't tell you he didn't.
I was gonna
but
say,
that
I don't
certainly
know
wasn't what the settlement was
Did we ever
for.
clarify what exactly happened?
It was spinal injuries.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are, May of 1968, and Sirhan's been a little bit reclusive. All right. Sirhan's mother is getting concerned. She's a good mother. She's lost a child already, and she is worried that Sirhan is retreating further and further into his own head. And so she calls up a friend of hers to try and set up a play date. And this friend of hers had a son who went to school at Pasadena College with Sirhan when he was enrolled. If you'll recall, that was before Sirhan's sister passed away from leukemia.
Yeah, and then he dropped out.
Yeah, he did. But anyhow, they decide that they're going to go meet up at Bob's Big Boy.
Classic.
Right?
Yeah, it's got
classic.
The big guy in the front holding
Right.
the burger in the
I
air.
love it because...
Austin Powers, of course.
No.
Isn't that what Dr. Evil takes off in a rocket with a
Yes,
big
but
boy?
I love it because David Lynch talks about it all the time.
He likes Big Boy.
It was his favorite place to go for a long time. He really can't leave the house now. But
I feel like that was overblown. I think that he even took that back a little bit.
I mean, I hope he takes it back just because I really
Well,
would
you
like...
Dave, you don't want him to work too hard and then die of
Well, no, I need somebody to get him like a
new set of lungs.
new set of lungs, maybe a real good balloon that can't be permeated with any disease, and he can just go out and do his directing, yell at people through his balloon. I just really want more. People say like, oh no, it'd be good if they did more Twin Peaks. Bullshit. I'll take as much as I can get. Take as many more as they're willing to give me. Anyhow, he goes out for this evening, and apparently a couple other guys that he went to college with, they talked about a few political things. Notably, they were even discussing the conflict in the Middle East and Arab support versus Israeli support. And RFK didn't even come up in the conversation. So that's important. Then they went out to a couple of strip clubs, and they went out to a Mexican restaurant.
Are these strip clubs or gentlemen's clubs? What kind? What's the style? Sorry, I'm not so... I'll write that one down.
Thank you, Byron. I appreciate that.
Forgot about that.
So they... the reports from the other fellows was that Sirhan really was pretty withdrawn. And in fact, by the end of the night was real Debbie Downer and asking why these women...
He's an incel.
...were being so... how did he say?
Uptight?
No, like something about how they were demeaning themselves. Like sad,
Oh.
like not enjoying...
Yeah.
the exotic dancing whatsoever. Okay.
Interesting.
And his friends told him to like lighten up. But later, when Sirhan's mom went to get a report from Sirhan's friend's mom, apparently Sirhan's friend had told his mother, yeah, Sirhan seemed pretty withdrawn. He seemed, real quiet, real sad. Not angry. Apologies. Not angry, not volatile, but just withdrawn. Maybe grim and grumpy.
Okay.
Okay. That's all right. I can handle that. So around the same time, Bobby's mom is also inserting herself quite significantly into his life. He's announced his campaign for president on March 16th, and his mother insists on going on the campaign tour and starting to do campaign events with him. Well, his father was not well enough to travel, but that did not stop his mother from being significantly involved. And I have to say, though I haven't done nearly as much research on Rose and Joe, there's a bug that just landed on my nose. Did you see that?
It's because you brought wine in my house.
I did not bring bugs with my wine.
You had that open in your car all day.
No, I didn't.
I know, just kidding.
Oh my Lord.
I was doing a Josh.
Oh.
You're fine. Sorry about the bug.
That's right. So I don't think I like them very much. I think that they're kind of rude and fairly stuffy. And I don't think that I like Joe very much, especially.
And that's the dad, right?
That's the dad. I mean, Joe definitely had a lot of shady relationships. People speak about how those shady relationships may have led to JFK's election as president. I don't know how you could possibly break that down, but I will say I read in multiple places from biographers that Bobby was known to be the only one of the children who ever stood up to Joe. And one of the pivotal times that he did this was when he was acting as Attorney General under his brother and went to war against the mafia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous.
So, I think Joseph tried very hard to rein Bobby in at that point because ostensibly the mafia had helped JFK get elected, but even more provably, Joseph was in some business dealings with members of the mafia. In fact, he and Giancana owned some property together, I believe, near Tahoe, near Lake Tahoe.
What do you do with... I'm going to ask some questions. What do you do with shared property with you and your boys?
I mean, I think it's just like investment property, for developments or for...
Stop.
He's just licking his paws. Let him have some salt.
I can hear it.
It's fine.
Oliver, please stop licking your paws. Come here.
He says, Dad.
Sorry. Come here.
Dad. So I think it's just business development investments. It could be as simple as he needed a way to launder money, he being Giancana, and Joe made it look like a more legitimate business deal by being involved. And that was like the quid pro quo for who knows, could be a million different things. But he actually came to Bobby and said, cool it, stop this. Because in the first 3 years of JFK's presidency, prosecutions of mafia went from 35 per year to 288 per year.
Wow. Okay.
And one of the most compelling theories that I have heard connecting Bobby and JFK's assassinations is that, in fact, the mafia killed JFK because they wanted to stop Bobby. And they knew if they killed JFK, that it would put an end to Bobby's work immediately because LBJ wouldn't keep him as Attorney General. But if they killed Bobby first, JFK was president and he would have gotten to the bottom of it and tracked them down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and either they were planning on just letting Bobby not die because he no longer held a position of power.
So many
they waited.
micro conspiracy theories.
I mean, it's kind of like that's the macro one though that like ties it all together. Whatever the case may be, it does appear that by 1968 there were quite a few more concerns bubbling among the mafia about the potential that Bobby Kennedy would once again be in power, because now as official president, not just as like his brother's unofficial co-president, who knows what was going to happen. He was in more of a, I guess critics probably would have called it more of a self-righteous position than before. I would say he was even more devoted to helping the hardworking and underappreciated citizens of America. And that certainly did not include the mafia. So they stood to lose a lot with him as president, though that does not prove that they were at the, behind his assassination. I think it gives at least a compelling argument for considering them. All of that said, Joseph was not on the campaign. I don't know if he would have been even if he had been feeling better, because while he was always happy to brag about whatever his kids were doing, there was just a little bit more strife between Bobby and Joe than there was between the other kids. Fell in line a little bit more
Bobby's
easily.
the runt as well.
He is the runt.
So.
He is the runt. And in fact, remember, that's another thread with Sirhan. They're both kind of little guys.
Yeah.
There's this picture of Bobby standing a little bit awkwardly, I think on the roof of a car or something at an event right before his assassination with a young child. And it's really funny. He looks barely older than the young child. He looks very little. I don't know if he actually is that little, but boy, does he look like a just teeny tiny guy.
Tiny little man.
Yeah. So he's on the campaign trail. They're doing quite a bit. And working our way up to the start of June. Byron, one of the things I've mentioned to you about this interesting case is involving the time during spring of 1968 that Sirhan was not in contact with his family.
Mm-hmm.
So you could almost refer to this as kind of missing time in Sirhan's timeline because it connects to some other pretty complex components of the conspiracy theories that wind around this event. We're going to wait and talk about that in a little while when we talk a bit more about the MK Ultra elements that have been suggested connected to RFK's assassination.
That's a little bit better.
Oh, what
It was
happened?
a little loud at first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, no, you're fine. No, not you. My thunder. I was doing distant thunder.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
What?
Literally heard nothing.
You can't hear that?
Oh, now I can hear it.
Oh my god.
Okay. I heard that.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, great. So we are going to return to the MK Ultra idea. I didn't want you to think I had abandoned that missing time, but we really need to get up to what happened here. May 30th. Okay. RFK lands in California. And the evening of June 1st, he debates McCarthy.
Okay.
I forgot to ask you. Oh, apologies. I forgot to ask you about this. Byron, is it okay if I play a couple of clips or would you prefer that I not do that?
Well, how would you do that?
Well, I was just going to play him through this so it like comes through my mic.
You're an insane person.
I mean, because it's like all live, I thought that was more kosher than it used to be.
How is that more kosher?
Because it's not going in recorded. So we are going to hear just a little bit kicking off the debate that that RFK had with the other Democrat running for president, McCarthy. And this is McCarthy from Minnesota. This isn't Senator McCarthy of the witch hunt.
Sure.
Okay.
Different McCarthy.
And this is June 1st. So this is 5 days before his passing.
Tonight, two declared aspirants for the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party are in the same room before the same television cameras and radio microphones to engage in a discussion, or if you will, a debate on the issues, the problems, and the opportunities that confront the American people this year. This program comes at a significant, perhaps a critical time for both Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York and Senator Eugene McCarthy of Minnesota. Next Tuesday, the Democratic voters of California, in their primary election, will express their preference. Both Senator Kennedy and Senator McCarthy are on the ballot in this state. Both have campaigned extensively and vigorously. They will be questioned tonight by ABC News correspondent Bob Clark.
So for those of you not able to click on and see this whole debate, which I actually recommend watching, it's interesting. It's five guys sitting very civilly around like a coffee table like setting, having discussions, and it's pretty comical.
That's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I know.
People need to be yelling and saying shit that makes me fucking feel something.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, apparently we're supposed to talk about the size of golfers' penises. I don't know.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
I don't want to vote for someone with a smaller penis.
Okay, so speaking of which, there were so many stories I waded through in this research about LBJ just whipping his
Huge
dick out all the time.
He did do that, actually, yeah.
And he would, like, make people watch him take a shit.
He'd shit with the door open. I think he actually had the door removed, right?
He did, and my mother then started talking about how she went and did a tour for some thing or another, and it was like literally there was a whole office where people were supposed to sit and like have meetings with him while he was like, how fucked up. It did give me this perspective of like, okay, well maybe what we're looking at right now isn't as weird as it feels.
Yeah, I think things were always a little bit gnarly, if I'm being honest.
That's just so gross.
I mean, it's
so
not
gross.
great.
Anyhow, the debate got things rolling. People were very interested in McCarthy, which is why RFK chose to run in the first place, because I don't think anybody believed that an anti-Vietnam candidate would get much traction. And when McCarthy got so much traction, I think RFK said, okay, well, maybe I will do this then.
Yeah, maybe I have a shot.
Maybe I have a shot. Great. Okay, so the next day, fundraiser, pardon me. That same day, June 1st, is the day that we have a receipt showing Sirhan and 2 other gentlemen went to a gun store.
Oh, no.
And purchased 4 boxes of .22 caliber bullets. Put a pin in that.
We talked a little bit about this, right?
You and I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think we did mention that they were denied some larger ammunition, or...
Yeah, but I really think this was us because I was trying to sell you on the
It was,
ballistic
we
stuff.
talked about that twice.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
yeah, we did briefly mention that.
So
Last
you guys have no idea how much I've spoken with my husband about guns and bullets. And I have bullets that I'm bringing with me to demonstrate some of the things.
Yeah, it's been concerning.
They aren't in weapons. They're just loose bullets, okay?
I still don't... I mean,
Sam told me I'm not supposed to get near a fire.
you're not supposed to really have them, I don't think. You'd get kicked out of a school zone if you...
Okay, well, I'm not going into a school zone.
I'm just saying.
Jeez Louise. Anyhow, I'm going to show you guys because I learned a lot about bullets and ballistics, which is going to play a significant role in one of the upcoming episodes as we start discussing what the hell happened. June 2nd, there was a big fundraiser at the Ambassador Hotel, which was the place that ultimately, would be Kennedy's last stop. But this was a fundraiser with Andy Williams. You can listen to Andy Williams' Christmas songs. Let's not talk too much about him because he probably has horrible things about him, just like all of the other
Christmas
crooners.
Alum. Yeah,
that,
Christmas crooners.
The Christmas crooners.
We never did a Christmas crooners episode. I did go into depth.
We talked about Bing Crosby being like, whoa.
It's a rough guy.
Maybe we need to do more about the Christmas crooners.
The crooners.
I mean, Sinatra certainly figures heavily into the Kennedy story.
Oh, yeah. I guess
Very heavily. Yeah. Then June 3rd. So this whole first week of June, Bobby is flying up and down California, like doing all of these stops. So June 3rd morning, it's San Francisco, and it's 2 weeks before Ethel and Bobby are to have their 18th wedding anniversary. So frame of reference, Byron, Sam and I just had our 15th.
Congratulations.
We have 2 children. They had 10 with an 11th on their way. So we are really behind the 8 ball.
They're Catholic.
I know, it's true. It's true. His wife was 3 months pregnant. They were driving through Chinatown in San Francisco, standing on the bench of a convertible, which I found to be very interesting, just thinking about how his brother died.
Oh, this was after that, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is 2 days before he died.
Yeah. Dang. Okay.
Yeah. And now, Byron, I'm having one of these. We didn't talk about this last week, did we?
What we're talking about now, or what you're about to talk about?
Well,
because I don't know what you're about to.
So the incident that happened in Chinatown?
I don't think so.
Okay. So they're driving in this convertible. There are people everywhere. Everybody is just clamoring to see Bobby. It's almost like they do for a music performer,
like
musical
One Direction
performer.
person or something.
Oh God, that's depressing. Jesus, that was too soon, my friend.
About that.
I wasn't even a fan of theirs, and that's depressing. I had to look up. I didn't even realize. I mean, I'm sure I knew it at some point, but I wasn't still aware of the fact that that's where Harry Styles came from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So at the 3rd intersection in Chinatown, so Kennedy was shaking hands with a series of people when suddenly there were a bunch of shots that erupted just ahead of where the car was.
You did briefly mention this.
Okay, see, that's what I was reading. It sounded super familiar. So yeah, this was the story about the fireworks. They all freaked out. Everybody ducked. He didn't really move, and it was kind of this weird...
Ominous.
Like, why was he so calm? Like, is he low-key expecting to die here?
Yeah.
All right. So, June 4th. Byron, this is a story that is almost too weird to be true, but in fact it is true. The night of June 4th, Bobby and Ethel and 4 of their kids, one of which was RFK Jr., I don't know who the other 3 of the kids were, but they attended a Hollywood dinner party.
Where was it at?
Well, you see, it was at the home of a director by the name of John Frankenheimer, who, interestingly, is most well known for making a movie called The Manchurian Candidate.
Great. Classic. It's an
Which is
MK Ultra inspired banger.
Yeah, it's all about a person being brainwashed into assassinating a political leader.
For people who don't know, this is where the idea of like a trigger word, what do they call it in Manchurian Candidate? I can't remember. Suddenly you hear this word that you've been trained to react to, and it causes you to. Is it a presidential candidate or president, world leader in Manchurian Candidate? I can't remember. I haven't seen it or the remake, if I'm honest, but.
I believe that it was.
Oh God, it was Denzel Washington in the remake, huh?
Yeah, the remake was not very good. It was Liv Schreiber too. I love the people in it,
wow.
But it was Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, but we're talking about 1962
in the early one.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also Roman Polanski was also at the dinner party, and he was working on until he decided to abandon the project after the death of Sharon Tate. Mm-hmm. But he was working on a movie, very similar theme, about a guy who trained a dolphin that killed the president.
What? Okay.
I know it sounds absurd,
it's
but
more,
it ended up... No, it wasn't funny.
It's more Austin Powers stuff.
No, it wasn't, though.
Okay, lasers with sharks.
Okay, but it wasn't fair.
Pardon me.
But it wasn't a
sharks
joke.
With lasers.
It wasn't a joke at the time. George C. Scott ended up being the star of it.
Okay.
And it's something to do with dolphins, like Night of the Dolphins or something ridiculous.
I mean, dolphins were pretty cool back then, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know about using them as assassins. Not very great.
Sleeper agents.
Yeah. So, sleeper agents. Yes, exactly.
Queen of Diamonds. It wasn't even a word. It was the Queen.
Like seeing the Queen of Diamonds?
Yeah, while he was playing solitaire.
And you could, all of these different things you were able to use to trigger, it could be a word, it could be a pinch, could be a bunch of different things. There is a lot of science now that shows if you are susceptible to hypnotism, then these types of things do in fact work. And we'll talk about the hypnotism component altogether. Suffice it to say, it's a little bit of a coincidence that 24 hours before he was shot, RFK was at a dinner party with two Hollywood directors who were making films about sleeper cell political assassins.
Killing a senator at the...
Pretty freaking weird.
Wow. Okay.
Crazy, eh?
Kind of. But I mean, it was a very popular film, right? It made $7.7 million.
Right,
back then.
but like that's whose place he's at for. I don't know. I just thought
this kind of. I don't want to. I'm not supposed to do this.
No, probably not. But go ahead.
Remember how it was who was the gentleman during the Philadelphia experiment who was watching the movie and then said, "This is a movie about me." The fact that the Manchurian Candidate would. It was a novel, first of all, in 1959.
Yeah, Condon.
And then this film in 1962.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that it was very popular and in the minds of,
Oh, you're saying that this was a suggestion for why Sirhan did it?
No, I think that could be, but I was just saying it's a suggestion why people at the time and even through today feel like it's a realistic, option, that there is this possibility of sleeper cells being triggered and politically assassinating people. I
mean, I don't know that I'm going to agree with that. I think that the concept of political assassins has been around much longer.
That's
than
true.
That.
But I'm just
good
saying,
old Wilkesy Booth.
Well, yeah, but this whole, I don't know, second shooter. We'll talk about it.
Oh, Byron, yeah. See, this is where you just need to
buckle in, strap
in.
I'm just saying.
Kayate, sir.
Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do that to your mouth. Okay.
Wait, what? You want me to shoot myself in my mouth?
I mean, then you'll stop asking dumb questions.
Jesus Christ.
I suppose there's something to be said for that.
No way.
All right. June 5th.
Why?
Yeah. June 5th. Bear in mind, it is actually just barely after midnight on June 5th. June 4th was the big day, the election. And Bobby won it. This was a big deal. Things were looking very, very good for him. He's coming back from a bit of a rough spell in Oregon, but both North Dakota and California selected Bobby in their primaries for their Democratic candidate. So it was like one of the least populated states in the country and one of the most populated states
that's
in the country.
So that's a good sign.
It was a good sign.
Yeah.
He was reaching across a lot of boundaries that people had not previously reached across. I don't know why that speaks to me now.
Yeah, I wonder what the demographics were then,
Well, here's what I know. When it got close to midnight and he was aware that he was going to win, he gave this speech. In the speech, thanked all sorts of people, but specifically pointed out the farm workers organizer, Cesar Chavez. He talked about how helpful the support of Mexican Americans, African Americans, and specifically named a lot of parties and groups of human beings who had previously actually been forced out of political say. Like, so the jump to having a politician not just acknowledging them, but giving them significant credit for supporting his campaign and being a force that was, having power in what our country was going to see in the next 4 years as a president.
What Trump does with conspiracy theorists and,
probably a little bit like that.
Like that. It's kind of fun. Cool to think about.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to mostly think about there.
What do you think about that, Kelly?
I think that I'd way rather be playing that game than thinking about anything regarding our upcoming election.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No, the thing is, this research is helping me so much because I can fall way down the rabbit hole with this and just ignore what is happening. And the only time I have to pay attention is when I accidentally open up the Google News headlines and I see a picture of Donald Trump handing a freaking McDonald's bag out a window.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Did you vote yet, by the way?
Yeah.
Vote.org, everyone, if you
haven't yet. I voted. You better believe it.
I did too. A couple times.
Yeah, Sam and I were talking about how obviously it only works for the Democrats now, just like the Republicans are saying. But like, if you vote by mail, you can actually get one set of votes tallied for every week ahead of the election day that you send it. So like, if you submit it 2 weeks early, you can get your votes tallied twice.
Don't act like our audience is stupid.
Well, if I thought our audience was stupid, I would not make a joke like that. That would be terrifying.
Great. My joke was that I voted multiple times illegally. Yeah, it was self-deprecating, and also
I was just joking about the fact that dumb people, not our audience, think that there's some way that voting by mail is going to mess something up.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. So about 12:15, he does wrap up his speech. Byron, I don't know what you think about listening to any part of his speech.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Of course.
You're positive, because I don't want...
What do you think? I'm going to get mad or something?
Well, I mean, yeah, you got a little bit mad at me before.
No, I got mad when we weren't prepared to play clips. Now,
I thought you were mad at me before.
Wait, what are you talking about? I wasn't mad about clips. I was mad that you wanted to play them through the microphone with your laptop.
Are you sure?
Yeah, play the clip.
You're sure it wasn't just you being mad at me?
No. What are you talking about?
Okay. All
You're
right.
taking that a little personally, aren't you?
Well, I'm just... Okay.
Room is packed full of Kennedy supporters, Kennedy girls, Kennedy aides, well-wishers, anybody who could push their way into this ballroom.
So this is like literally probably 20 minutes before he dies.
Express my high regard to Don Drysdale. Who pitched his sixth straight shutout tonight.
Oh, congratulations.
And I hope that we have as good fortune in our campaign.
God, audio was rough back then, huh?
It was pretty rough.
No compressors.
My appreciation to a number of people. First to Jess Unruh for all that he did. First getting me into this.
Those top hats.
Express my appreciation to him for his friendship and his help during this campaign, and for his continued perseverance and his effort, and for all of those who have been associated with him. I'll always be very grateful. And if I could also express my appreciation to a number of other people, if you just bear with me for a moment, I'd like to express my appreciation to Steve Smith, who was ruthless, but has been effective. And I just want to say how grateful I am to him, to his wife, my sister Jean, to my sister Pat, and to my mother, and to all of those other Kennedys.
Thanks, Mother. Helping out.
I want to express my gratitude to my dog Freckles, who's been maligned. I don't care what they... As Franklin Roosevelt said, I don't care what they say about me, but when they start to attack my dog.
See?
Charming.
You can relate to this. Yeah?
I can relate to this? Why?
Yeah.
Because I have a dog?
A man defending his dog, having such love and concern for his dog.
A dialogue or a debate, I hope, between the Vice President and perhaps myself on what direction we want to go in the United States.
I don't think it's part of my platform to...
Talk about your dog?
No, what?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. It's not.
Canine love would be part of my platform.
What we're going to do in the rural areas of our country, what we're going to do for those who still suffer within the United States from hunger, what we're going to do around the rest of the globe, and whether we're going to continue the policies that have been so unsuccessful in Vietnam of American troops and American Marines carrying the major burden of that conflict. I do not want to, and I think we should move in a different direction.
So he's like a fun combination of like a more articulate Tim Walz or something.
Yeah.
He's
like an articulate Tim Walz, but like very similar in, and I don't know enough about Waltz other than to say like he seems pretty damn authentic.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's got a whole lot of like
told Elon
polished
Musk
layers.
Skipping around like a dipshit.
He is skipping around like a dipshit.
Which is true.
I love how much the Tesla sales are suffering. It brings me unending joy.
Yeah.
There are a few Cybertrucks in town now, and every time I see them, I just laugh my fucking ass off. Oh my God.
I wouldn't buy one. I am kind of intrigued when I get near one. I go, that's kind of fun.
Remind me before I leave, I got to show you a really funny meme about them. Anyhow.
Okay.
So.
Would never have a friend who had.
A couple things leading up to this night. And I know, you guys, that I really start seeing things so one-sided when I get this excited about someone, and I am very excited about Bobby Kennedy and his history, and the more I learn about him, I grew up really not thinking he was very cool. And it's interesting because when I researched RFK, when I researched JFK...
You're pretty critical of JFK.
Yeah, I mean, I think his politics were much better than his humanity, I guess I would say, based on my research of him. But
you're pretty sensitive to cheating.
I am very sensitive to cheating, but I also think that the unabashed like empathy of Bobby's politics, I'm really convinced of. Maybe I'm just a sucker, and maybe it was all an act, but 2 conversations that he had in the short-lived campaign before he was shot on this night. One was speaking to people specifically with money at an expensive fundraising event who asked about, who's gonna cover the costs of all of these integration efforts and ending segregation and really stepping things up with education. Like, we don't want to have to carry this
with that, like security.
Well,
or
I think
just additional people
I
needing
think
education.
Additional people and education.
More people.
It wasn't
more
financial
teachers.
aid at that point, but the concept of like providing financial aid for groups that have not traditionally been given the generational wealth to do such things.
Sure. Yeah.
And he literally just said, "You are
the people," because
it's
they're
time
us and
for
we
us.
are them, and
exactly. But that was like literally, and knowing he was at this event where he like could be earning a bunch of money from people, and these are the like to stand up in that way. And he also went to an event with a bunch of medical students.
Okay.
who kind of asked the same thing, basically, like, is it going to be harder for us to get into medical school if we're letting all of these other black kids in?
Mm-hmm.
And he basically gave them a speech about how those are the kids who are overrepresented carrying our country's bad choices in Vietnam right now. You sure as hell bet that they're going to have shots at getting into med school.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, that's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge. And I just, yeah. Anyhow, he finishes the speech. He steps off stage and they are ready to go in one direction. And at the very last minute, the direction changes. And Byron, you can go ahead and ask a question, but this is a question we're going to refer to later because I'm not going to answer right now.
Okay.
To me, this is one of the most pivotal points in the entire conspiracy / maybe not conspiracy. In this event, that decision to, instead of going the original direction, to go a different direction, that decision's the only reason that he ended up in a location where people were waiting to shoot him. If he had gone the intended direction, and it happened so quickly, it's not as though somebody could have pivoted from another location to this location. We're talking about in a matter of a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So instead of going the original direction, because apparently there were a bunch of screaming girls, I have found no clear answer as to who made that call, but it seems like it was somebody on his team. They instead steer him towards a set of doors that go into, it's been called a pantry. Essentially what it is, Byron, is a staging area for the kitchen. So like during these big banquets, the staff would bring food, plated food, out into this area. There were steam trays and other, ice machines, areas to keep the food in whatever condition it was meant to be, and then carry it out into the ballroom wherever the people were seated. Okay?
Prepared food, yeah.
So it's basically the staging area for the kitchen, and it's narrow. It's like a long, narrow hallway. The whole way between the stage and as he's walking into this area, you can see it's a very short distance. Okay. He's shaking hands with everybody. And there are even some lovely photos from before his speech when he's going through the kitchen in the other direction towards the stage. Beautiful photos of him shaking hands and talking with the kitchen staff. And I'm sure that those were lovely PR opportunities, but that really did seem to represent the people he was most interested in speaking to on his campaign. These are the people he wanted to, I guess, hear and make sure that they felt heard. So he's walking back. He actually is shaking hands with all of these individuals, including there's a maitre d' who is the assistant maitre d' of the hotel. His name's Carl. He has a very interesting accent. Sounds a little bit like maybe Belgian. A little bit hard to understand. We're going to hear from him down the road. And he turns and shakes hands with a busboy by the name of Juan. This is right by the ice machine, okay? The maitre d' took his arm again to try and move him along, like, we have to go. Somebody moved between the maitre d' and the steam table. And trying to visualize this, we are going to have a diagram. Sam is actually working.
It's literally right on the
I
screen,
know, but
Kelly.
It isn't a sufficient diagram.
I put it there.
I know,
if
but
you're
it's
on
not a
YouTube.com,
sufficient diagram.
so
It's a good placeholder, but I do think it's really important to understand the context of
just how tight the quarters were.
Well, it's tight, and we've got 70 some witnesses, and trying to understand what the majority of those witnesses reported in terms of positioning. Okay. Very importantly, Robert Kennedy is facing forward towards the steam table, towards the ice machine, shaking hands with Juan, turns to continue moving. Sirhan steps out from the crowd in front of the steam table, directly across, face to face, 5 or 6 feet from Bobby Kennedy. And in between the two of them, like Byron, if I'm looking at you right here, Carl, the maitre d', is standing beside them, but like facing the space in between them. Okay?
Yeah.
This is when Bobby is shot. The shooting took place. Oh my God. May as well fire it a couple more times.
I was going to say, how many? 16? 8 to 16?
13 seems to be the consensus.
Sure. All right. Well, and not going to do that.
Oh my God, don't even think about it.
Okay.
This shooting took place at about 12:15. At approximately 2 minutes after the shooting, at 12:17 a.m., that is when the switchboard operator at the Ambassador Hotel phones the Los Angeles Police Department to report that someone has been shot. In between that time, we have, as you might imagine, complete pandemonium. So tiny, tiny space. One of the things I hear over and over again is, how were there this many people there, this small a space, and people aren't 100% certain of what happened? One of the things I found fascinating is immediately after the shooting, there are people being interviewed, like at the hotel, because we had all these reporters there to cover the speech. So there are people coming out and being interviewed about what's going on.
I think that happens a lot. Like, it happened a lot on 9/11 too, which...
Well, you don't even know what happened because I haven't finished my thought.
Great point.
There are a lot of different reports about what people saw, what they didn't see. People saying, like, one of the reporters actually questions a guy and says, okay, well, was Mrs. Kennedy shot? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I have no idea. Like, I couldn't tell you what the guy who shot even looked like because my eyes went straight to the senator and looking at him and trying to figure out if he was okay. And this was immediately after the event. And already he's saying, I have no idea. Like, I literally can't tell you anything. Do you see
the correlation, though? Like, a lot, it happened at Sandy Hook. It happened at...
Well, no, because you're trying to make a point that you're trying to contradict a point that I'm not even making.
No, I'm saying that people don't know. Like, they don't know what they see.
Well, no, I think people do know what they see. I think people see very limited amounts.
Sure.
And so I think that when you're hearing these individuals coming out of the room and saying, like, this is the specific thing I saw, I didn't see the rest of this, or this is the only thing I saw and I didn't see any of these other components. It's very realistic for somebody to see, like, a gun without necessarily seeing who's holding it. It's very realistic for people to see the senator collapse on the floor and not see which direction something was firing from. Mm-hmm. So eyewitness testimony is notoriously poor evidence, especially when it stands on its own. And the only theme when it comes to eyewitness testimony that seems to statistically exhibit a higher degree of accuracy is the closer it is to the immediate response after an event. The longer people...
The more time
contemplate and the more time... And I don't think it's necessarily a dishonesty thing. I think that our human brains just try to fill in gaps. Mm-hmm. And the more time that we have to do that, whether you're trying to be dishonest or not, that stuff just works its way in there. And so trying to sort out different variables, like what are the witnesses saying most commonly? What are the common threads? What were the earliest statements that were made? What are the variables that we can know from the physical evidence without relying on the eyewitness testimony? What are the questions that still remain after looking at the physical evidence? And all of this is to say that it's commonly seen this should be an open and shut case. We know that Sirhan was holding a gun. We know that he stepped out, was in the room. And we know that he was tackled by Kennedy's bodyguards, who I think we talked about last week. These are guys that he hired privately. These are like football player friends and a guy who used to be an Olympian that did the decathlon. We know certain elements, but actually those logical steps that follow from those elements, like, oh, well, Sirhan must have been the one that shot him. Well, Sirhan's bullets must have been the only bullets fired. All of these things that seem like very logical conclusions that we should be able to know immediately from a situation with so many witnesses, those are the types of conclusions I would have jumped to immediately with this kind of a case. And the more I read and research, both about this case and just about similar situations and how humans respond, there's very little that we can know that doesn't rely on actual physical evidence. I mean, you can maybe create some strong suggestions based on overwhelming consistency among eyewitness opinions, but holy shit, there's so much that people miss when there's chaos. And this event seems to be kind of a peak demonstration of that. I will say one of the touching things, apparently, you can see in the photos, and these are photos that a lot of people have seen over the years. We've got Ethel kneeling down over Bobby, and then we've got Juan, the busboy, who was, basically blamed himself the rest of his life, saying, if Bobby had stopped to shake my hand, he probably wouldn't be dead. If he would have just kept walking rather than stopping to shake my hand.
I mean, that's a silly
Right, of course,
yeah.
But it's one of those things people do to themselves. And he was bending over Bobby and handed him his rosary beads. And apparently Bobby asked if everyone was okay. Like, that was the question he asked. And Juan said, yeah, I think everybody's okay. And Bobby just kind of turned his head, and as he was, like, fading out, said, like, everything's going to be okay. And then, like, that was, at least the last thing he said in the pantry there. Who knows if he said anything else when he got to the hospital, but just really,
he made it
really
to the
sad.
hospital though?
He did make it to the hospital. In fact, he didn't pass away until, I guess technically it was June 6th at close to 2 a.m. So he made it 24 hours. They operated on him. They were able to extract a bullet
How
from
was he
him.
Injured?
He was shot through the back of the neck and through the back shoulder. And then beyond that, there are differing opinions.
Okay.
But the one consistent opinion is that all of the bullets entered from the back. And that is our first point of confusion, because the eyewitness accounts and the physical evidence indicate that Sirhan was actually standing in front of him, not behind him. And we will get into so much more of that as we walk down this road. But I will leave you with one detail, Byron, and that is that some investigators, researchers, historians argue that there were as many as 3 additional guns that were drawn in that pantry area that evening. There is only one additional gun that we can say definitively was both in that room and drawn. And that gun was held by a security guard standing behind Bobby Kennedy, immediately behind him. And that is, I think, probably where we will leave off.
We'll pick up there in part 3. Kelly.
Yeah.
Thanks for that report.
Just to leave on a real Debbie Downer. The next morning when he died at, between 1 and 2 a.m., Ethel and Bobby's other brother, who would become the sole male Kennedy child upon Bobby's death, Ted. And then he had quite his own tragic circumstances thereafter. They were both at the hospital. And John Glenn, the astronaut who had actually gone with Bobby to Disneyland a couple days earlier, was a couple of Bobby's kids. It was kind of fun. They rode, I think, the Matterhorn together, which was kind of funny watching John
Is it still
Glenn.
around?
I don't think it is. Although it might be. Disney World is my jam, not
I'm a
Disneyland.
land guy.
But they asked John Glenn to tell all of the children about their father's death because he was a really close family friend. They weren't there to tell the kids themselves. And so when the children woke up that morning,
A goddamn astronaut was
he
tasked?
was the one that sat on the edge of their beds and talked to them. And he refused to ever elaborate on it just because he was a pretty proper man and didn't want to violate the privacy of any of those kids. But all he would say was, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
Yeah, damn. All right.
And then Byron, again, I am really, really sorry, but I have to leave with this audio because this is my number one all-time favorite speech ever given by Bobby Kennedy, and it made me adore him even more than I already did.
Senator Robert F. Kennedy.
What? Wrong clip?
It's the wrong one. Hey, can you talk for like 30 seconds, Byron, so I can get this ready? Say something that isn't wrong.
Isn't wrong.
Yeah, make sure that it's correct and that it's not contradicting me.
You can grab a Assassination of RFK t-shirt. That's always a good idea. It's a great
makes
place.
Me so sad.
It's a pretty sad picture. This image of...
You guys, I legitimately think that our country wouldn't be fucked if he had survived.
Right. Well,
like, I really think so.
You're showing your cards, and also, if you were...
That doesn't mean that there was a conspiracy to kill him. I am just saying, point blank, he was shot point blank. But point blank, we would be in a totally different situation.
You're an odd person,
if he hadn't been fucking killed.
Yeah.
We would not be sticking...
Do what you're doing.
Okay, sorry.
If you were like Sarah Koenig, the reporter for Serial, you would have been like so obsessed with Adnan. It would have been like more clear than...
What's Adnan?
From the first season of Serial, the case against Adnan Syed.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just saying, you're very... You can't just... What are you doing?
I've read so many fucking books.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it seems like you kind of fall in love with the idea of all of these people.
He's our American hero that we probably didn't deserve, and that's why we didn't.
Why do you want people to listen to the rest of this series if your cards are that shown?
Those cards, the fact that I'm obsessed and think that he was an amazing human has nothing to do with whether or not Sirhan murdered him.
Well, you were also you were very sympathetic to Sirhan in the first sentence of this episode too.
Yeah, well, maybe,
you're a bad journalist.
Maybe you should find out why I'm sympathetic to him. Are you ready yet? That's what I thought.
Am I ready?
Too much and for too long, we seem to have surrendered personal excellence and community values in the mere accumulation of material things. Our gross national product now is over $800 billion a year. But that gross national product, if we judge the United States of America by that gross national product counts air pollution and cigarette advertising and ambulances to clear our highways of carnage. It counts special locks for our doors and the jails for the people who break them. It counts the destruction of the redwoods and the loss of our natural wonder in chaotic sprawl. It counts napalm, and it counts nuclear warheads and armored cars for the police to fight the riots in our cities. It counts Whitman's rifles and Speck's knife and the television programs which glorify violence in order to sell toys to our children. Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. And it can tell us everything about America.
What did you do?
What?
You stopped it?
That we are.
What the fuck?
I didn't stop it. Turned it down.
But you can't do that.
Well, we're going to listen to a 2-minute speech?
Yes, we are, and we've got 20 seconds left. You do not interrupt his speech.
America, except why we are proud that we are American.
You literally stepped on the fucking closing line.
I don't care. I think...
You guys, it's so bad that he was killed.
That's
it was
fine.
bad.
I don't think it's
it was
good
bad that JFK was killed. It was really, really bad. Okay, it was really bad. This
come on now.
Was worse. This was legitimately worse.
So
this fucked our country twice as much.
Would just say it. They'd show it.
I'm going to show it. Well, actually, no. Showing it would be like showing what he would have done. That has nothing to do with whether, like, I'm not trying to prove that he would have been more valuable. I am saying that as a side note.
Explicitly.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
well,
that has nothing to do with the investigation.
For the first time in the history of this show, I'm not thanking you for your report.
Fuck. Like, you guys,
soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I guess it's a live show every week. For now. I don't know how long that's going to last after tonight. Remember, I asked you for your clips. Remember that? About noon today?
Yeah, in the middle of my 11-hour workday. I did not have them.
I also called you twice this weekend.
That is bullshit.
That's not. I'll show you my phone.
You're full of shit.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Appreciate you. Yeah. The Casual Frightday rebroadcast will be dropping on Friday, so keep your eyes out for that, and we'll see you live next Friday as well.
Bye, everybody.
But before that, I guess, behind the screens this week, I'm going to be talking about a demon cat. Byron does a Cryptids. So let's ridicule Kelly's research. Go to the frightdaysociety.org. I don't believe in it, and I'm also a good storyteller, but it's okay. See you next time, guys.
Bye, everybody.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy. Theme music is provided by Yawns. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.